What drives a person to commit acts of unspeakable horror? What pushes them beyond the boundaries of humanity into the realm of the monstrous? These are the questions we find ourselves grappling with as we delve into the enigma of human cannibalism, a subject so revolting, so outside the parameters of our social norms that it can be hard to comprehend. Throughout history, cannibalism has been documented across various cultures in different times and places, and for a multitude of reasons. Some societies practiced it as part of their religious rituals, while others resorted to it out of sheer necessity during times of famine. But then, there are those cases that defy any logical explanation, where individuals are driven to consume human flesh by something far darker. Psychologists suggest that these acts can be triggered by a multitude of factors: childhood trauma, mental illness, a desire for dominance, a twisted pleasure in causing pain. These are just a few of the elements that might tip an individual over the edge into such unimaginable territory. The individuals we are about to explore have all succumbed to this dark impulse. They have crossed over that line that separates man from monster, driven by a hunger that goes beyond the physical. They are the real-life nightmares that remind us of the darkness that can lurk within the human psyche. From the infamous Jeffrey Dahmer who terrorized Milwaukee to the enigmatic Albert Fish whose heinous acts shocked a nation, we will delve into the minds of these notorious cannibals. We'll journey from the bustling streets of Miami, where a sudden and brutal attack shocked the world, to the quiet corners of England, where unsuspecting victims fell prey to a deadly invitation. But be warned, this journey is not for the faint of heart. The tales you are about to hear are as chilling as they are real, painting a picture of humanity's darkest side. These are not just stories of cannibalism, but also tales of manipulation, torture, and murder. Prepare yourself for a journey into the darkest corners of human nature. Our first horrific tale takes us to the sunny streets of Miami, a setting far too bright for the dark tale of Rudy Eugene. On a day like any other in May of 2012, the unimaginable occurred. Born in 1981, Eugene, a man with a troubled past and history of drug use, launched a brutal and unprovoked attack on Ronald Papo, a homeless man. Accusing Papo of stealing his Bible, Eugene beat the man unconscious and, in a turn of events that shocked the nation, bit off most of his face. The incident, which unfolded on the MacArthur Causeway, a major thoroughfare in Miami, was as inexplicable as it was horrifying. Papo was left permanently blind and disfigured, his life forever altered by the gruesome assault. The attack ended only when the police arrived at the scene and fatally shot Eugene, dubbing him the Miami Zombie. The aftermath of the attack sent ripples of shock and horror through the public. The brutality of the assault, its seemingly random nature, and the cannibalistic element introduced an unprecedented level of fear and confusion. Speculation about what could have driven Eugene to such an extreme act ranged from drug-induced psychosis to deeper, unresolved psychological issues. The case of Rudy Eugene serves as a chilling reminder that horror can strike anywhere at any time. This incident, known as the Miami Cannibal Attack, stands as a stark example of the darker side of human nature, a side that is often hidden beneath the surface of everyday life. It's a story that continues to haunt the sunny streets of Miami, a grim testament to the unpredictability of the human mind, a chilling reminder that horror can strike anywhere at any time. Our next case brings us across the pond to Leeds, England, where a former Mr. Gay UK winner would commit a horrifying act. Let's delve into the chilling story of Anthony Morley. A former model, Morley was no stranger to the limelight, having won the very first Mr. Gay UK contest in 1993. But behind the facade of success and charm hid a darker side, one that would eventually lead to a gruesome crime. Anthony Morley and Damien Oldfield, both former contestants on the television show God's Gift, shared a complicated relationship. Oldfield, unaware of the impending danger, accepted Morley's invitation to his Leeds flat in 2008. This acceptance, however, proved to be a fatal mistake. That night, their rendezvous took a terrifying turn. In an act of unimaginable brutality, Morley murdered his lover. But the horror didn't end there. In a chilling twist, Morley dismembered and partially cannibalized Oldfield, marking a gruesome climax to their ill-fated encounter. The details of the crime sent shockwaves through the nation. The gruesome act was a stark contrast to the charismatic persona Morley had once displayed in public. The case took a turn when Morley himself walked into a nearby takeaway restaurant, covered in blood, and confessed to his crime. His confession led the police to the horrifying scene at his flat, revealing the gruesome reality of Oldfield's fate. The trial that followed was as sensational as the crime itself. In October of 2008, Anthony Morley was found guilty of murder. The judge, unswayed by Morley's plea of self-defense, handed down a life sentence, ensuring that Morley would pay for his horrific crime. The story of Anthony Morley and Damien Oldfield serves as a chilling reminder that sometimes danger lurks where we least expect it. It's a tale of a deadly invitation, a grotesque crime, and a justice system grappling with a horrifying act of violence. A grim tale of love turned deadly. From the heart of England we travel to the mind of a madman, Peter Bryan. Born in London in 1969 to parents hailing from Barbados, Bryan's story begins in an ordinary setting. But as we delve deeper, we find that his life was anything but ordinary. The first signs of trouble appeared early on. Bryan was diagnosed with schizophrenia, a mental health disorder that can cause hallucinations, delusions, and a whole host of other issues. His first violent act, a murder, landed him in prison in 1994. Despite the severity of his crime, Bryan showed signs of improvement during his incarceration. His seemingly positive progress convinced authorities to release him into the community under psychiatric care. But the beast within Bryan was merely hibernating, not vanquished. In 2004, his mental state deteriorated, and he committed 2 more murders. The details of these crimes are gruesome to say the least. Bryan not only took the lives of his victims, but also engaged in acts of cannibalism, earning him the chilling moniker, the Butcher of Broadmoor. Bryan's crimes highlight the complex relationship between mental health and violence. His schizophrenia certainly played a role in his violent behavior. However, it is important to remember that most people with schizophrenia do not engage in violent acts. Bryan's case is an exception, not the rule. Following his convictions, Bryan was committed to Broadmoor Hospital for treatment. His sentence, a whole-life tariff, was later reduced to a minimum of 15 years due to his mental illness. While his story may be over, the questions it raises linger on. Could more have been done to prevent his violent outbursts? How can society better support those struggling with mental health disorders while also ensuring the safety of the community? A chilling example of how mental illness can twist a mind into something monstrous. Bryan's tale is a stark reminder of the darkness that can lurk within the human psyche. It's a reminder that sometimes the scariest monsters are not those hiding under our beds, but those walking among us. Our journey into the heart of darkness continues with the case of Stephen Sean Griffiths, the so-called crossbow cannibal. This chilling tale originates from Bradford, a city in West Yorkshire, England. The year was 2009, and the city was about to be rocked by a series of horrifying murders. Stephen Sean Griffiths, a postgraduate student in criminology, was living a double life. On the surface, he was a seemingly normal student, but beneath this facade, he was a predator with a taste for human flesh. His victims were Susan Rushworth, Shelley Armitage, and Suzanne Blamires, all of whom were engaged in sex work. These women, like many in their profession, lived on the margins of society, vulnerable, and often overlooked. Their disappearances initially went unnoticed, their absence explained away by the transient nature of their lives. But as the death toll rose, the horrific reality began to emerge. Griffiths was not just a murderer, he was a cannibal. The gruesome details of their deaths shocked the nation, the brutality of his crimes a chilling reminder of what humans are capable of. He didn't just kill these women, he dismembered them, consumed their flesh, and discarded the remains like they were nothing more than refuse. The case of Stephen Sean Griffiths is a stark reminder of the vulnerability of those living on the fringes of society. It highlights the need for greater protection for sex workers, many of whom live in constant fear for their safety. As we delve deeper into the chilling world of human cannibalism, we must remember the victims, the lives they led, and the loved ones they left behind. Their stories serve as a chilling reminder of the depths to which humanity can sink, the dark side of our nature that, for most of us, remains hidden. But for others, like Stephen Sean Griffiths, it is a darkness that consumes them, driving them to commit acts of unimaginable horror, a stark reminder of the vulnerability of those living on the fringes of society. Now we delve into the twisted mind of Andrei Chikatilo, a man whose monstrous acts earned him the title, the Butcher of Rostov. Born in a famine-stricken village in Ukraine in 1936, Chikatilo's early life was marked by hardship and struggle. Poverty, hunger, and war plagued his childhood, sowing the seeds of a dark future. His personal life was fraught with impotence, social awkwardness, and self-hatred, leading to a series of failed relationships. These personal failures fueled a deep resentment and a dangerous predilection for violence. Chikatilo's reign of terror began in 1978 and lasted until 1990, during which he confessed to the murders of 56 women and children. His victims were subjected to unspeakable atrocities, a reflection of Chikatilo's own inner turmoil. The Soviet Union was gripped with fear as the body count rose, and the authorities scrambled to apprehend the man behind these heinous crimes. His education and career were marred by his inability to sustain an erection, a condition that contributed to his descent into violence and murder. Chikatilo found a perverse sense of power and satisfaction in his crimes, a stark contrast to his feelings of inadequacy in his personal life. His victims were often vulnerable individuals, easy prey for a man fueled by rage and a need to dominate. In 1992, Chikatilo was convicted and sentenced to death for 52 of his confessed murders. However, the Supreme Court of Russia later ruled there was insufficient evidence for 9 of the killings. Despite this reduction in the official victim count, the terror Chikatilo instilled in the hearts of the Soviet people remained undiminished. The Butcher of Rostov met his end in February 1994, executed by gunshot. His death marked the end of a dark chapter in the history of the Soviet Union, but the memory of his crimes continues to haunt those who lived through that era. Chikatilo's story serves as a chilling reminder of the depths to which humanity can sink when consumed by hatred and a desire for power. His life and crimes provide a stark contrast to the values of empathy, respect, and kindness that we strive to uphold in our society. A terrifying example of the human capacity for evil. Our next tale takes us to South Korea, where a man named Yoo Young-chul would commit unspeakable acts. Born into a world of poverty and hardship, Yoo Young-chul's life was marked by a series of criminal convictions that reflected a descent into darkness. His story is one that sends chills down the spine, as he didn't just murder his victims, he committed acts of cannibalism, a horrifying detail that would earn him the title of the Korean Cannibal. In a chillingly short time span between September 2003 and July 2004, Yoo Young-chul was convicted of 20 murders. His victims were as varied as they were numerous, including prostitutes and wealthy elderly women. The brutality of his crimes was shocking, as he didn't just kill his victims, he mutilated them, and in some cases consumed their livers. His reign of terror ended in July 2004 when he was apprehended. In his confession, Yoo admitted to killing a total of 26 individuals, 6 more than he was convicted for. His targets were affluent senior citizens and masseuses, people he perceived as morally corrupt. The chilling details of his crimes were a stark contrast to South Korea's relatively low crime rate, leaving the nation in a state of shock and disbelief. Yoo Young-chul's case sparked a nationwide debate on capital punishment in South Korea. Despite the horrific nature of his crimes, the country had not carried out a death sentence since December 1997. However, the sheer brutality of Yoo's crimes led to his sentence of death in December 2004, a sentence that was upheld in June 2005 despite appeals. Currently, Yoo Young-chul is detained at the Seoul Detention Center, a living testament to the monstrous depths human nature can descend to when consumed by darkness. A chilling tale that sparked a nationwide debate on capital punishment. We now return to America, where we encounter one of the most notorious figures in criminal history, Jeffrey Dahmer. Jeffrey Dahmer, a name that sends shivers down the spine of anyone who knows his story. Known as the Milwaukee Cannibal, Dahmer's life was a terrifying tale of twisted desires and horrific crimes. Born into a home filled with family tensions, his early fascination with dead animals hinted at the dark path his life would take. Between 1978 and 1991, Dahmer committed a series of unfathomable acts that shocked the world. He murdered and dismembered 17 males, his crimes escalating in brutality over time. Dahmer's twisted desires were not confined to murder alone. His crimes also involved necrophilia and cannibalism. He would preserve body parts, a macabre collection that served as a chilling testament to his perverse inclinations. Despite being diagnosed with personality disorders, Dahmer was found legally sane at his trial, a detail that underscores the chilling reality of his actions. These were not the acts of a man who didn't understand his actions, but rather those of someone who fully comprehended the horror he was inflicting and chose to continue regardless. Dahmer's reign of terror came to an end in 1991 when he was arrested and subsequently sentenced to life imprisonment. His story, however, does not end there. In a twist of fate, Dahmer himself fell victim to violence when he was beaten to death by a fellow inmate in 1994. The legacy of Jeffrey Dahmer is more than just a collection of horrifying crimes. It's a stark reminder of the darkness that can lurk beneath the surface of a seemingly ordinary individual. Dahmer was not some mythical monster, but a man, a human being capable of extraordinary evil. His story forces us to confront the uncomfortable truth that monsters are not always creatures of fiction, but can be found in the most unexpected of places. A chilling reminder of the depths to which a human being can sink. Our journey into the macabre ends with the case of Luca Magnotta, a man whose crimes would shock the world. We now turn our attention to the chilling tale of Luca Rocco Magnotta, a Canadian murderer whose gruesome acts were not only committed in real life but also displayed on the internet for all to witness. This is a story of a crime so appalling that it reverberated around the globe, leading to an international manhunt. In May 2012, Jun Lin, a university student in Montreal, became the unfortunate victim of Magnotta's heinous act. Lin, a computer engineering student from China, had moved to Canada in 2010, seeking a better life and brighter future. Little did he know that his life would be tragically cut short by a man who would later be known as the Dark Web's Cannibal. Magnotta, diagnosed with schizophrenia, had a history of criminal activities and animal cruelty. However, none of his previous acts would compare to the horrifying crime he was about to commit. He brutally murdered Lin, dismembering his body in an act of unthinkable savagery. But the horror didn't stop there. In an act that would stun the world, Magnotta posted a video of the murder online. This ghastly display of brutality was not confined to the shadows but was broadcasted to the world, marking a new level of depravity. This video, which unveiled the horrifying reality of what had occurred, triggered an international manhunt. Magnotta, aware of the impending pursuit, fled Canada. The world watched, horrified, as the manhunt unfolded. It was a race against time, a desperate attempt to bring this dangerous individual to justice before he could harm anyone else. Eventually, Magnotta's reign of terror came to an end. He was apprehended in Berlin, extradited to Canada, and faced the consequences of his appalling actions. Lin's body parts were discovered, identified, and laid to rest, while Magnotta was found guilty on all charges, receiving a life sentence with parole eligibility in 25 years. This chilling tale of Luca Magnotta serves as a stark reminder of the depths to which humanity can sink. It's a horrifying testament to the power of the internet and the darkness it can hide. It forces us to confront the reality that even in our connected world, where information is at our fingertips, there are still dark corners where terrible acts can be hidden, or in this case, showcased. A horrifying testament to the power of the internet and the darkness it can hide. As we conclude our journey into the heart of darkness, we are left with one final question. What does this say about us as a species? We've delved into the lives of 10 individuals who, driven by their darkest desires, committed acts of violence that most of us can't even fathom. Each of them, in their own twisted way, represents the duality of human nature, the delicate balance between civility and savagery. What drives a person to such extreme acts of violence? Is it a product of nature or nurture, a result of a disturbed mind or a corrupt environment? Or is it a combination of these elements, a perfect storm that brews within the psyche, leading to a catastrophic breakdown of morality and humanity? The stories of these notorious cannibals serve as grim reminders of the depths to which humans can sink. Yet they also highlight the resilience of society. In the face of such horror, we rally together, we seek justice, we try to make sense of the senseless. Our collective shock and repulsion at these acts are testament to our inherent sense of right and wrong. These tales of horror also serve a crucial purpose. They force us to reflect on our own capacity for violence, however remote it may seem. They challenge us to confront our own shadows, to acknowledge the darkness that resides in each one of us. It's a daunting task, but one that is essential for our growth and evolution as individuals and as a society. As we reflect on these stories, let's not forget the victims, the innocent lives brutally extinguished. Let's remember them not just as victims, but as individuals who lived, loved, and had dreams of their own. Let's honor their memories by striving for a world where such atrocities become a thing of the past. Thank you for joining us on this chilling journey. Remember to comment, like, and subscribe for more content like this. Until next time, stay safe out there.